So we're going to start here again, and I found something which is of importance, and I'm going to show you. There's a weld burr right there which would have screwed over the seal from ever going and sitting in its place. How we're going to cure that is with a mill bastard file. I don't know if you can see that, but we're going to just take and gently work the head off that guy. You can see what the hell I'm doing. I gotta I'm gonna put this over here so I don't screw stuff up and you guys can watch me screw stuff up. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take this very carefully. Oh, see, it popped right off there. There's a wonderful thing. And make sure there's no grooves or anything weird going on there so that seal can squat down on there. We're gonna put some grease on it, but here's a weird thing. Back to my grandpa's era of making stuff, when you didn't have stuff, I don't have the proper tool to push the seal on. So I had to dig through the old parts bin or pipe bin and create something. This is a bell for probably a sewer line, more than likely, that actually had an O-ring in here at some point in time and went together, and I'm not sure what all happened to it, but you can see it's been welded on. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there you go. So we're going to move this just a little bit. Anyway, so how this is going to go down is this slides right over the top of this, and this piece here is not quite big enough to slide over the end of this. So I'm going to actually take my die grinder, take it apart, and take my die grinder and clean it up a little bit and chamfer this edge on this thing, which I'm not going to take you through that screaming noisy thing. And I'm going to make this a seal driver. Now this thing is almost perfect. I mean, if you figure the size of the seal, it just needs to go in just a little bit more and it's going to be ideal. So when it hits this bearing chamfer right here, actually right here on the back side, it's going to stop because that's what it's hitting. It's not hitting here, not going to hurt that, and it's going to allow this seal to go all the way in the back. I'm also going to make some measurements because the other bearing slides on, and I did take the liberty of cleaning these, and you wouldn't believe the garbage that came out of them. But this bearing slides on and sits right there. Okay, easy peasy. Then this bearing slides on and sits out here. And there might be some burrs on that. Nope, it's clean. So there's your bearings, how that's going to go. So I did clean these up. They were really nasty. A lot worse than I thought they were. I figured I'd just throw some more grease in them, but there was really some nasty stuff inside here. And if you're going to do this job, you might as well do it right. And I'll pressure pack these bearings before they go on and put grease all the way around them. I'll do like I do with every trailer when I do the initial assembly on any trailer, whether it be semi-trailers or anything for that matter. So all this is going to get cleaned up. This isn't going to get pressed in place tonight. I'm going to regroup because I need to perfect this tool I'm making out of nothing. Okay, this is just digging through stuff. This is kind of the era of my grandfather and the ingenuity he had that he passed along to me. If you don't have a tool, you don't have a part, make the part, you know. So that's where I'm going with this at this point, is I need to make some things before I can continue this. And I'm probably just going to hang it up for today and come back after it tomorrow. It's dark out anyway, so can't make videos in the dark. So, oh, another thing I found, which is a point of interest, is this. Let's see, can you see that? No, it's probably really bad. I'm just going to bring the camera over here. All right. So, there's all of our clean parts ready to go. Grease packer. And I got to get a cotter pin for that yet. I'm also going to have a look at that hub too, and probably clean whatever nasty grease is out of the hub. But I don't have a gasket for this, and no one makes it, so I really want to make one. and that's not very hard. Get some gasket material. If you punch the 3 holes in it, get it centered, punch the 3 holes in it, cut it out, mark it, cut it out. You know, it's just really not that hard to do. But here's a really huge problem. If you look inside here, you can see the grind marks from either a cotter pin or a nail or whatever they had going on in here. It just tore the living hell out of this thing. And this thing is dented badly. So this is going to go over to my press, and I'm going to give it some love. And we're going to see if we can get this to actually take its normal shape. That is pretty badly crushed. Oops, turn. That's really crushed. So that's why I need my press to do it. And I'm going to try not to ruin these edges and warp them all to death, but I can straighten those if I have to with another, by flipping the press over and then getting a dowel to go around the outside and repress that. But this is not acceptable. This is just not going to go back on this tractor, not like this. And I don't have another one laying around. And because it's a Schwartz front end, I'm sure nobody's got one of them in their back pocket. And I really don't want to wait another day for what I can do here at the shop. So that's going to be another process to delay this thing going back together quickly. So, but the cool thing, make your own tools. If you don't have them, make them, and so on there. And like I said, the other side of this pipe will have to be cleaned out. And if I was really going to go nuts with this thing, I'd be welding a cap on that to bead on it. But, you know, I can turn my maul sideways and just smack it sideways so it's nice and flat. The idea is creating a seal driver, okay? You have to sit either on that edge or on this edge right here when you drive this seal in. And of course you got to grease it up, duh. But you want to not beat on this with a hammer, because all you're going to do is distort the hell out of these edges. And that's probably what happened. Well, I think somebody obviously did that to take the seal off at one point in time, because there's a big dinger in the side there. But that's on the back side. I don't even care. This sits on here real nice, but it gets kind of sticky right away. And that's great, because then you know it isn't going to move. But it's got to get started straight. It's got to go on straight. If it gets cocked, it's going to get weird, and that's why you want to create a driver. So I'm sure somewhere on the face of the planet, Farmall actually made a tool for this, or Schwartz made a tool. Actually, Schwartz probably made a tool for this, that they sold to the Farmall dealers when they had to work on their axles they built. So, or maybe people just did what I do. Make your own stuff. Because back in the day, that's what you did. If you didn't have it, you had to make it. So, anyway, this is probably going to end up to be the longest video I've ever created by the time it gets all edited and stuff. So, we will reconvene tomorrow. So, now that we got this all squared away, and as you can see, this actually starts to look like an actual cap again, and it was so obliterated. Now, this took a lot of work with my press, and as you can see, I've had to heat it immensely to get it to mold around. Actually, I used a socket, a really big freaking socket, and I've managed to get all this clearanced, so nothing is going to hit this anymore as far as cotter pins go, or actually the nut was actually carving away at it, so it's got clearance. The next thing is there was no gasket. So because I have a lot of gasket material laying around here, then let's see if you can guess what this gasket once was. I'm going to be showing you guys how to make your own gaskets. Old school, Grandpa taught me how to make gaskets this way, and my old man was doing this stuff in the Navy too. So, because on the big ships they just had sheets of gasket material and they made their own gaskets. It wasn't like you went to the store and picked up a gasket in the middle of the Pacific. So it's a make whatever the hell you need type thing. Ingenuity. WW2 stuff and beyond. So what I did here is get kind of a crude thing. I obviously traced out my holes. I will drill these holes, and I'm going to show you a little hot tip there when I set up to do that about drilling these holes versus just trying to punch them through and something, because you're just going to tear the gasket material all to hell. And there's a trick. I will show you that. I could take a scissors and cut this edge out all the way around here, and I could very well do that. And I may do that just out of speed, because this material does cut. It's hard, but it does cut. Now, I am going to put some sealant on either side, just a very thin wipe, and that will go on this. And that's going to end up going on this when this gets cleaned up, which I'm going to have to be off here for a while because this is Grungemundo and it's going to need it cleaned up. And I was just going to throw it back together and put it back in service, but I guess if you're going to do it right. Now, another interesting thing, I got a bunch of interesting things that kind of fell together, and I'm glad I didn't try to slam it together last night and finish up the video, because I may have to separate this into 2 parts because it's gotten ridiculously long, or it'll be a 1-hour tutorial. And it may just be a 1-hour tutorial. Anyway, so this is a 13/16 socket. Okay, right there. If you can see that. Normal stuff. I use it all the time. Either 3/4 or 13/16. That fits on this one. So, and it fits on this one. And it fits on this one. But it does not fit on this one. This is a frickin' 7/8. So isn't that great? So I got 3 of this kind and 3 of that kind. Why? I have no idea. What, the guy lost 3 lug nuts and had to go get someplace? That just makes no sense to me. Or do you strip out 3 of them? I mean, but then the hub would be stripped, and it's not. Because I've had these tires off here. You remember when I changed tires recently? So anyway, I'm going to take and pull this hub out of here just to make more user-friendly. And so on there. So, do you guys guess what that gasket material is yet with them 4 holes in it? Might be a hint. Anyway, so I'm going to pull this apart, get the hub out of here, throw the tire up this side for now, and go clean this mess up. So that's just going to, I've got to end here, and we'll have to come back to a clean part, because I'm going to clean it up real good, and any gasket material that's still on this area in here, because this is just gnarly, nasty ick. And I want to get it super cleaned up, so I'm putting it back together way better than what it once was. Also, the back side is just, I mean, oh my God. I got to show you this. I've seen some pretty crispy grease in my day. Ooh. This isn't exactly light, but, dude, this. Ew. No. Run it? No. But as you can see, this is just nasty, and the seal was riding in this thing, and it's rusty and greasy, and the grease is really crisp, burned to hell, and it's just, I'm not going to put that back together like that. So I want to clean everything out of here and make sure that this doesn't have any pieces of metal in it or anything bad that can cause the seal to fail. Because, like I said, I had to make it seal driver to put the seal on, and I don't want to end up with a problem. I don't even know if they would even have that type of seal. They probably created a replacement lip seal, like pretty much most other axles for this particular. That thing's still stuck to my finger. Ew. Put that booger right in there. Give me a rag. So anyway, that's what's going on with that. But the other thing I wanted to point out that I noticed this morning, I had a lot of things going on this morning. I didn't get back to it, but I actually caught this when I was looking through some of the other videos on this shaft, this brand spanking new shaft, and I saw an engineering flaw that I am not going to allow to continue. I'm going to move on from this. And what I saw was, remember I bragged about how beautiful these welds are? What's wrong with this picture? And give up yet? Well, okay, so let's, for a minute, remember that this thing sits like this. Okay? Where's the stress on this axle when it's on there and you got a loader bucket, you got a load of dirt on there? Where's the main source of stress on this axle? I don't know. Where they didn't put a weld? How fucking dumb is that? That is really dumb. All this beautiful welds and they didn't do that. Well, okay. All right, there's a gap right here, no weld. I'm going to bevel that. I'm going to put a gnarly weld in here. And I'm just irritated by this. I'm sorry. I'm so triggered by it because it's just absolutely dumb. So what's going to happen is it's going to start to crack right up this freaking weld. It's going to snap this thing right off eventually. Because all the stress, it's already got a crack here where there's no weld. All this stress is going to go right up this fucking thing and it's going to break it. Oh, pardon my language. I'm not editing that out. It's a pronoun. It's an adjective. It's a noun. That's the only word in the English language. It can be used for every single thing in the English language. It can pick up that and be used for all those different things. So, by the way, trivia. So that kind of put this whole thing in the back burner because I got to set up and do all that, and of course I can't. I used my other camera one time for welding and to watch welding, and it ruined it, and so I don't do that anymore unless I had somebody see me welding from a distance. But got too close. Something about the excessive flash to the camera, and it just absolutely made it freak out. And then every time after that, it was, whenever I tried to video something, it was screwed. So we don't do that. Now, I did perfect this like I said I was going to yesterday, and I did cut the inside of this out with a die grinder to make this tool. You can see how that's chamfered, and that tool slides right over the end of this. Nice and neat. It allows this to drop all the way down. And I'm going to put this back together. Easier said than done. I also took the liberty of getting this completely ground flat so that it's not uneven and there's no lumpy gravy like weld chunks or anything weird on there. So that's ground completely flat. So that will fit on that seal just perfectly. That tool is completed. I will label that tool something and put it in my toolbox in case. Okay, this is going to be the last chunk of this part 2. I'm going to bring up a couple things. For one, I showed this seal before, and this is going in the proper way versus the other way that I showed it before. But I was wondering if there if they replaced this with the lip seal. And they actually did. This is called a Chicago rawhide seal. So you can buy this seal in a different type. It's got a lip right here. It runs on the axle, and it drives into the hub like pretty much most everything that you'd find in the industry today. So I'm sure it's a 10 times better seal, but I don't have one. It's $8.10. I need to get this thing done, so that's what's going to happen there. I desperately need this thing done. You have no idea. So this is all cleaned up from the last time you saw it when it was really nasty and everything. And of course, it's all washed and everything all the way around. And All the bearing races look amazing. So we're just going to run with it. This cap that was all beat to hell is all straightened out now, so it looks like it's supposed to look, which was a major undertaking. The gasket material that I had laying around, if you didn't guess already, was a blown blower gasket material that was laying around that I tend to make thicker gaskets from. And this is a really hard gasket, so I'll wipe some material on it so it seals really good, but it'll do. I'm going to show you how to cut it out, drill the holes, and that sort of stuff. And I'm going to show you an old trick that my grandfather showed me, and of course my dad as well. I got to see that again from my dad's point of view, because he used to make gaskets like this in the Navy, and so of course World War II vet, he knew a lot of tricks. So that's where we're headed today, is we're going to be doing that. So how to use a board on the background to drill your holes so you don't rip your gasket material to shreds, so that the drill bit goes through the gasket material and into the wood, and it'll actually, because it's got some pressure on it, it'll actually cut them out pretty good. They won't be perfect. There's actually bits for that sort of thing, believe it or not, or you can buy punches for punching various holes too. We do have a lot of that we've done with like snowmobile tracks and that sort of stuff. We have actually cutting tools for the snowmobile tracks, which work amazing. We'll probably get into some of that because it's getting that time of year where we play with some Polaris stuff. This year I'm going to play with some stuff. I'd really rather just sell all of it and just move on. Have had my fun. Anyway, so this is where we're headed with this, so we'll just get after it. There's that. I'm going to put this off to the side for now. And we're going to get this set on here somehow as my messy workbench. Pay no attention to that. Let's see, hopefully you can see that. I have to take a look if you can see that or not. I don't know. I hate this camera. I hate pretty much most everything about this. But we're going to take and get this set on here decent, and where it's all the way around the outline of exactly where I want my holes. And that's pretty darn close. So the holes may vary. It's 5/16 drill bit, so I'm just going to go, gotta go the right way. Just going to go down through this until I see wood coming up and quit. Oops, went all the way through. That must have been a high quality piece of wood. So now we've got our holes, and you can see what a great job it did at punching the holes, and there's not a lot of weird stuff on the back. If you didn't have this piece of wood back here, it would have ripped these holes out something fierce. Now, this is also a trick if you do woodworking. This is also another trick for if you're drilling through a board and you don't want to blister out the backside. You put a piece of wood behind it and it drills a perfect hole every time. And you don't end up with that breakaway wood on the backside. So, this is firewood now. It was firewood before. Guess what that was once upon a time. So, at this point, we're going to be able to put this on the hub and start working things. So we're going to take the bolts, we're going to put it on the hub. I could have this make some sense. Come on, fingers, function. Well, that bolt ain't in too good a shape. The other thing too is if you got, this is a little bit of hook. The other thing is too that if your threads aren't so good, you should probably chase them. Because these things take so much abuse, it's just unbelievable. Now my holes are super tight with my gasket here, so that's a win. So no water leakage. Like I said, I'm going to take and put a very, very thin coat of gasket sealant on this material when I go to put this together, which you'll see that in the third installment of all this. But so what we're going to do is we're going to get a ball peen hammer and we're going to go around this edge and start tapping off this edge. And this is a really sharp, really brittle gasket, so we got to be kind of on the careful side here so we don't break the gasket. Usually gasket material is a lot smoother, a lot softer, but this is kind of old, so it's probably going to want to break really bad like that. So I'm going to get around here. And yes, it does break, but we're hitting right on that sharp edge. And we have the basics of a gasket. You can continue to beat on that thing if you want to clean it up really good. You know, make it as perfect as you want to make it. Now, on the inside, you got to be super careful. Until we start getting it to cut. Ow. And don't hit your finger. And then we'll just break it away that way. Now we've got it all cut, which I'll move the camera up here shortly. Well, that was just dandy. Material's so brittle it cracked the gasket, but it'll probably be fine. There's just a little crack right there. So, don't care about that. That'll be fine because I'm going to wipe some stuff over it, and for what I'm doing for this, it'll seal up just fine, but there is your finished gasket. The material I'm using is very old and brittle material from an old blower gasket years ago, and generally it works good. Now I could either get super fussy and make a brand new one because this cracked right here, or I could go with it, and we're gonna pretty much go with it because I need to get this job done. So what I'll do, and I don't think this is broken all the way through, but it's got a little crack here. I'll just a little bit of silicone on that anyway. It'll be just fine. So let's just take our bolts out. And yeah, I just broke all the way through. But if it's not broken twice, it's just got a crack. It's not a critical gasket other than the fact that it just keeps water out and also provides a distance on the hub. So yes, it did crack. Yeah. See, cracked all the way through. Okay, well, if you really, really want to be fussy, you can make a brand new one, but this is just what we're going to run for now. Okay, a little silicone on either side, and put that on there. Now, what I mentioned about the distance issue is the fact that this gasket provides another additional distance for the nut and the cotter pin, so that when this thing's rotating, it doesn't hit that on the inside. It doesn't hit the inside of this. So it's a pretty important thing. I know that the one that they originally had was probably pretty paper thin compared to this one, but this will get the job done. So there you have the quick, easy way to whip up a gasket when you don't have a gasket or can't buy one. Again, this goes back to Farm Boy 101. If you don't have something, you make something. This is just the way my grandpa was, and it gave me a unique skill set because I learned how to make a majority of seal tools, gaskets, weld stuff up, fabricate things, fabricate tools, fabricate broken parts, and so on there. Now, last thing I'm going to do is walk over here. This is going to be the next level of stupid. And yeah, I had to throw the damn boat outside again. But this part was made wrong. A weld was forgotten. And so I'm going to be cutting this edge back and grooving it down in there so I can run a triple lap weld over the top of this. So it'll be quite similar to the other one, which I'm going to bring up that Twisted Mopar Garage pointed out that they make a heavy duty one of these, and what that amounts to is there is a shoe that's welded from here all the way across here that's about 3/8 of an inch thick, and that's the difference between a standard duty axle and a heavy duty axle, so that this weld does not break. Now, that wasn't my problem, and he brought it up that if I had heavy duty axles it wouldn't break, but nah, I broke that axle way above that, so that was just a big mistake. Okay, but you can see how this one was welded, and this was just a flaw in manufacturing, I'm guessing. So we're going to fix the flaw, and I can't show that when on my camera because I'm not going to fry my camera. So this is the end of this part, and the next part, this part will be all rebuilt. The hub will be able to go together. This will go on the tractor. Then the hub gets to go on the tractor with all the packed bearings and everything, and we can put the tire on and put it back in service. Okay, so the cracked gasket bothered me. But I whipped up another one. So this is the cracked one. We're going to put it in a cabinet for a spare. If I ever need one, I got one ready made. Oops. Well, I guess it's on the floor now. But anyway, this one is fine. It came out perfect. Because it wasn't on camera, it came out perfect. Of course. Wouldn't have it any other way, right? All right. If you like this stuff, like and subscribe. It's all going to go back together today.